back of the room. I'm going to walk down here for a minute. Just want to make sure that I know the punchline here. Is John Pepper still here? Okay. You know, I'm 56 years old, and one of the things you learn by the time you get to my age is when you don't have any regrets. Last night, when John gave his comment at the end of the diversity training, I thought we should stand up and applaud, and we didn't. And now we are. John, that was amazing on so many levels. I'm going to go relatively quickly. You know, we've had a couple of just, I think, terrific talks. You know, one about this exciting, scary future, you know, AI, CRISPR, space, where could all that go? And then one about this amazing tool of machine learning or artificial intelligence, what it is and how you can use it. I'm going to come all the way down to something else, which is in a world that is just accelerating all the time at a faster and faster rate. You know, what do you do? What do you do within your company? What are the options? What do you do for yourself? I'm not going to try to cover everything. I'm going to try to just cover one thing, actually. You know, we all know that this age of acceleration, and I love this chart that George showed of the exponential rate of change in things, and everybody knows that change is scary, and it brings both risks and opportunities. You know, I think I love the fixed mindset slide that George put up of, you know, it shows kind of here's the fixed mindset and here's the mindset you better have, but it's really hard to have. So I think George's point was really one that I really believe in, which is, you know, in this world, you only have really one option. You can't hide from it. You can't kind of try to keep going at the same pace. You have to actually accelerate the rate at which your company changes and you change. So you have to change at an accelerating rate. It's an obvious point, and it's really hard to do. Now, I will tell you, I think this is my fundamental belief. I believe the only way to do that as a company or as an individual is to embrace design. It's the only tool you have. Within it, everything else fits right into it. Now, the reason I say that is because if you think about it, you know, what is design? And I'm going to go through it a little bit. I'm going to ground this in a minute. But if you think about what is design, design is really about just changing consistent with the future. That's what design is. Now, when I joined Logitech, I'm going to take you briefly through this Logitech story, which is always a work in progress. And you know, I came to Logitech because I had the amazing good fortune of running Braun. And so, did anybody here work at Braun? There's a few of you. I had this amazing experience, which was, and Braun was a design company from a different age. It was a design company from a different era, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But I had this opportunity to run Braun. I did it for 4 years, and I learned how powerful design could be. So when I got a chance to go into the tech world and try to create another design company, I jumped at it. And since then, we've made huge progress. When I started, we had 0 designers. The company had never officially had a designer. They had some people who were really talented at spotting products and developing products. We really never had a single designer in the company, and we didn't have any design principles. And if you worked at Braun, you know there were 10 that Dieter Rams created that were really powerful, and they still are today. So the first thing that I did was to try to build design principles. So we built our own design principles. There were 6 of them. Then I hired a head of design. He used to be the head of design for Nokia. And then we started to build out a design organization. Now I'm going to tell you don't have to do that today and certainly tomorrow, but I needed to do that given where we were. So we built this design organization, and we made good progress. You know, we now win more design awards per revenue dollar than any other company. And so we've made huge progress. We just got named one of the top 30 design companies in I think it was either in Fast Company. Nike was number 1, by the way. But we still have a long way to go. And here's why we have such a long way to go. If you look at this chart, you'll see from left to right, there are 3 eras of design. This is my definition, nobody else's. So there's probably somebody who knows more about design than I do who will see it slightly differently. The first one was the design culture or design concept of decoration. And that's a general term, but it's making things beautiful, making things look good at the end. I would say, if you went back to a lot of what we've seen what we saw in the 20th century, it was about decorative design. It was about making things look good, maybe making things feel good, certainly making packaging good. But design as a way of improving the aesthetics of anything is really the first era of design. Now, I will tell you, I don't know where you work today, but most companies are actually still there. They're moving past it, but they're still there. The second era of design is where the companies, and maybe this is 40%, 30%, I don't know a number, have moved to, which is really designing the experience around the user, around your customer. This is where companies are moving to. The best companies are here. They're doing it consistently. They either have lots of trained designers, or they have people who are naturally doing this. But really and P&G was the master of this. Was getting the user first, and then building the experience around the user. So this second stage of design, I would say, is where almost every company I know of that's considered a good design company is today. And I would say we're there, and we still have we have lots of headroom to improve our capability of really designing better and better experiences for our users, for our customers. And we've got a huge organization now. We have 150 people who are trained designers. We've been training the people who work in our company to design think. And we've been applying that very, very ruthlessly to making sure that every one of our products is a better and better experience. Whether it's a digital product or a physical product, doesn't matter. So this middle is the big area. The third area is the one that I'm most interested in, and the reason I joined Logitech. It's the concept of, and I think it's the one that fits this theme the best, which is designing everything. Now, designing everything doesn't mean, designing the package and the website and the physical product and the app. Designing everything means designing everything. So, for example, we design how we close our books. When I joined the company, it took about 2 weeks before I knew what our numbers were at the end of a quarter, which is a very disturbing feeling for a CEO. I don't recommend you try that. I had a controller who was a real design thinker, and we now know in 2 days. Now, the reason why it matters is because I am the customer of that information, the primary customer, my CFO and I. By knowing in 2 days where we're going to wind up, I don't report for 3 weeks. I can have my reviews for the prior quarter, days 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I can move on to the next quarter based on that learning and applying it. That's one example. But think of all the examples. Think of a board meeting, how it can be designed. Think of an experience inside now this is starting to take hold, but there's no company really doing this yet. We're at the very beginning of people thinking this way. Design thinking is not a new thought, but the real concept of applying real design and design into everything is not being done broadly yet. Now, let me go one step further. When I think of designing and redesigning everything, if you take it far enough out, I always have this picture in my mind that at some point I'm an employee and I walk through the building and literally the walls are changing and the furniture's changing and everything's changing based on what I need in that moment. Now that's a pretty extreme view, but the concept here is that imagine that you're in a company that is that dynamic, where things are really changing for the users, for the customers, and for the people who work in the company, for the partners of the company, for board members who might be a kind of a quasi-member of the company. So this is the world that I believe we are headed into, and the successful companies are moving there. We need to move faster and faster. I'm organizing around it now, and I've decided that I don't think the head of design for my existing business can do both, because the business of creating experience for users is so important that I don't want it to conflict with the business of creating experience for the rest of the company. That's at least my tactic. We'll see what goes on. Now, the result of our approach to design so far has been pretty successful. When I joined the company, I always say, I joined the company and the stock was at $8.04 in 2012, April 2012, and I had an immediate impact. The stock dropped within a year down to $6.24. We went from declining to declining faster. So it was a pretty ugly first year, and luckily the board didn't give up on me. The second year was amazing. We grew 2%. And the third year we grew a whopping 4%. Now I am a very long-term thinker, and luckily the board is patient. After a while, we grew 4%, then 9%, then 16, then 13. So we went from negative growth to positive. Effectively sextupled our profit, and our stock price now is up to today. It's over $41. So we've gone up about over 600%. Now that's a great thing, and it is so easy to get a pat on the back when you have results like that. And it's easy to feel good. And employees feel good. I feel good. In fact, I feel really good. The problem is that the biggest problem with success is it's really a problem. It's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. The concept of success is, in my view, worse than the concept of failure. In fact, I'm going to suggest humbly, because it breeds complacency, I'm going to suggest humbly, sorry, somebody wanted to take a picture of that, you're welcome to. I'm going to suggest humbly that actually success and failure should be removed permanently from your vocabulary and replaced with learning. Because at the end of the day, success and failure, like a grade of an A, a B, a C, a D, an F, or a 1 to 7 if you're in the UK, I think. Whatever your definition of, somebody said I was successful, somebody said I was a failure, it relates completely, it looks back, it's historical completely, it has nothing to do with the future. Learning, on the other hand, is 100% about the future. So if you just take success and failure, and there's all kinds of problems with the word failure, so I'm sure you'd be happy to leave that one behind. Take failure away, take success away, and start thinking that way. Now, I want to finish this talk by landing on you as an individual, because everything I said about building a company that's in this constant design, redesign, change process must also be true for you and me, right? I've got to George, you got to give me a picture of that slide you did that shows this fixed mindset in the world of acceleration, because that is our lives. And in fact, if you inverted it, if you took the fixed mindset and you mapped it against this acceleration, if you just did this, you'd see exactly what happens to us, which is we get a fixed mindset and then we learn less and less proportional to our past. So we go the other way, and we eventually get dementia because we're not using new regions of the brain. We're not stimulating ourselves in new ways. And that's why 2 years ago when I was at this conference, I talked about never, never retire. If you're in the audience and you're retired, unretire yourself. If you're thinking of retirement, get it out of your system. It's a really bad idea. If you've officially retired, it's okay, but officially do something else too. Don't let yourself go there. Now, inside you, here's just a few things that I do to try to constantly try to design and redesign the way I think about everything in the life. Now, I have this other concept, not to confuse you, I call near zero. Near zero to me is if you can get back to eliminate the success, eliminate the failure, and look at things completely rationally, you're getting close to the starting point, which is zero. You probably can't ever get completely to zero, and maybe you don't want to. But if you can get closer and closer to that point. So the first obvious one is, how do you get there? First one is, hang out with people different from you. If you're young, find people who are old. If you're old, find people who are young. If you're white, find people who are black. If you're black, find people who are white. If you're whatever you are, try to find people who are different from you, different in mindset, different in experience, just different. One easy way to find people who are different from you, but they're different from you in a way you used to be. You used to be the same as them, and you've lost it, is if you're inside your company and you've been there a while, you're no longer new. And the problem with not being new is that you lose the ability to see. Henry Markram, who's a brain researcher at the EPFL, I was having a talk with him about the brain one time. I said, can you tell me something that I might not know? He told me a couple things. But the one that I'm going to use here was, he said if a 3-year-old walks in that door today and looks into this room, they see the room. If you walk into this door, you actually see a slice of the room, and your brain builds the rest. So you think you saw the whole room. And you probably do a pretty good job of describing it later to your friend. But the truth is, the 3-year-old saw the room and you didn't. You saw just a piece of it. The longer I thought about that, the more it disturbed me, because I thought, God, what if I'm doing that in my business? What if I'm doing that with people who work for me? Wait a minute, I am doing that with my business, and I am doing that with people who work for me. So one of the things I do, which isn't the antidote, but it's at least an attempt, is every new employee in our company I meet with, either one-on-one or in small groups. And I talk about the strategy and I talk about the culture, but it's really a selfish meeting. At the end of the meeting I say, now I've done my part, I have a favor to ask of you. I want a letter from you, an email. Within the first 30, 60, or 90 days, please don't go much farther, to give me the benefit of what you have that I don't. I'm jealous, and I'm greedy. What I need is a list of the things, it can be 1, it could be 20, that you would change in this company. It can be the color of the carpet looks terrible and it's depressing. I stopped noticing what color the floor is. I don't know anymore. I can't tell you right now. Or it could be that strategically we ought to be in healthcare and we're not. Whatever it is, please send it to me. Third one. After I'd been in this job about 5 years, it was Sunday night, and I was thinking, and we had great progress, success by other people's measures, and I was really thinking, am I the right guy for the job, or the right person for the job for the next 5 years? Because we're going to be more different between now and 5 years from now, by far, than we are compared to what we are today versus when I started. So I really thought objectively, and I thought, I'm going to make a list of what's the new person look like, and I wrote it down. And then I wrote down my background, and I thought, okay, well, I'm pretty good. I'm lower risk than a new person. Sometimes it takes 2 to get 1. So probably I'm the right person. The problem is I know too much. All the people I hired, all the strategies I decided, every product I touched. So it was a conundrum, what do you do? A paradox, I'm the right person, but I'm the wrong person. So I thought, I'm going to sleep on it, but first I'm going to fire myself. So I fired myself that night, not knowing what I would do the next morning. I often sleep on things now. It's amazing how often you change your mind. I was pretty sure I wouldn't change my mind on that. I woke up the next morning, and it was really clear to me. I immediately rehired myself under a contract with only one clause. And the clause said, you absolutely have no sacred cows. No strategy, no business, no person, nothing. And I went to work that day, and I felt like a newcomer again. And I started making changes. And I then told my team, 3 months later, the story, like I am you. And at the end of it, I said this. I said, now you need to do the same thing. You need to go fire yourself. And if you don't, I will, and I will not rehire you. And I think most of them did it and have done a good job. Now I'm going to close on just the last 2. One of the cultural values that we're trying to build, it's hard, is to seek disagreement as opposed to run from it. I don't know, I hate when people disagree with me. I love when they agree. It makes me feel good. I feel smart. But the truth is it's terrible for you. So instead of seeking disagreement, you actually need to, when I say seek disagreement, instead of expecting people to challenge you, you have to go ask to be challenged. And then the last one, and I'll just finish, is, I don't expect anybody here to go away and become a designer at the Royal College of Art. You're probably at a point in your career where it doesn't make sense. But if you haven't at least learned some good principles of design, I would. Because it's really the only tool for a human being to pull all this crazy, fast-paced world together and believe that you can actually make a bigger and bigger impact as things change faster and faster. Thank you very much.